Hi all right. So my name's Carly, and we're going to do a bit of a training workshop thing around positive behaviour support, so PBS. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not have. We'll sort of go into depth around challenging behaviour, what PBS is, if any of your children have a PBS, if you think they should, what it should include. So I have a background in working with challenging behaviour. Currently I'm a registered manager for a domiciliary agency, but we also have challenging behaviour with that. So it's not just the elderly, which is what most people think of with domiciliary. I have a few service users that are also challenging behaviour. And I'm also a mum to an autistic little boy who can also show some challenging behaviour. My company's amazing. We also cover children and challenging behaviour with children. And I'm the team teach lead for, along with one of my colleagues, for the agency that I work for. So we teach PBS and we teach challenging behaviour, how to handle challenging behaviour, as well as interventions for children as well as adults.
Nice.
Lovely. Yeah, looking forward to it. Sorry.
This is obviously a subject it's endless, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Challenging behaviour, it depends how extreme you're looking at it to, as you said, I should probably explain it's everywhere.
Challenging behaviour can be anything. Yeah.
It really can. And I think for us, we'll try to explain it, or I will try to explain it as simply as possible, and obviously not make this so long that people switch off, and hit as many points that people may be thinking as possible.
Yeah.
But you're right, Nate. We could sit and have this conversation for hours and come up with all sorts of scenarios of where challenging behaviour might come and what you could do and how a PBS plan will help here and how it helps there and everything else. So, yes, it is such a wide subject. Now, obviously, I'm going to be basing this more towards children rather than adults, but let's not forget that our children do become adults. So, just especially if they're maybe behind on their whatever their levels that they're supposed to be. So, for example, my son's about 2.5 years behind. Now, that may not make a difference at 10 when he's at like 8, but some of you may have children that there's quite a massive gap between their actual age and their mental age. And so even as adults, they could still be children. So we've got to remember that our children do turn into adults as well.
Yeah.
I think as well, it's important to prepare them for it, isn't it? If you don't put the work in now, then they are going to become adults without these coping mechanisms or without this knowledge going forward. And I think
bigger than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what as well, Carly? Something I'll just say. So I've worked with quite young children, and some behaviours that are cute or other that we can't do that because actually this young person can't transfer skills. If you do it in one situation, he thinks he can jump on your back in every situation, and the bigger they get, it's not so cute. And,
in a everyday setting for now, what I'm seeing a lot, and it's been waiting for mention, is that happening? Is that parents aren't putting in any kind of methods about challenging behaviour and sitting behind the diagnosis for the behaviour, which then leads to them becoming adults, not leaving the house, and then becoming really problematic. And especially if there is aggression at home, and then they end up getting arrested, social services get involved, or I've heard really bad horror stories about some families that have had people removed and stuff like that. And it's like, hopefully this will help. Just simple things like this, getting them on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that all of these things that we could discuss or how I can explain it to you will necessarily work, but consistency is a major thing. Just because it doesn't work the first time doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it again. Yeah. It may just be that you change how you say it or how you do it. We can't fix everybody's problems with challenging behaviour, and the understanding of to put that understanding of the challenging behaviour in place, at least, I suppose, allows parents to just not feel so shit.
Yeah.
When you just end up feeling like a really bad parent because yours is the kid in the middle of the supermarket that's screaming and throwing himself on the floor and throwing stuff around, and you just feel like you're a really bad parent, but you're not. But it's helping give you those strategies to either try and stop that behaviour and get them out of the shop, or just kind of have that, that's what they've got to do right now.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on.
Yeah, definitely.
It just does. It takes a lot of confidence and composure, doesn't it? And I think having an understanding helps a lot. But even in them situations, you have to remain in that mode and not get emotionally attached. It's very hard, isn't it, in the supermarket not to then.
It's hard when it's your child.
Yeah, when it's your child, as you'll see, we can talk about this all day easily. When it comes to our own kids, it's not even been hardly applied.
Yeah,
like they get you.
It's worse for me if we take our son somewhere we actually know. to somewhere where we're a local or someone that we actually know and we go there quite often, and he misbehaves, I feel worse than if we're just in a random supermarket.
Yeah.
And the people around me, the people that I'm taking him to and the places we're taking him to, we go all the time, fully aware of his extra needs and everything else. Yet that's when I find that I get really wound up and panicky about it. Whereas in the supermarket, I'll throw myself on the floor next to him. Does not bother me. And anybody who wants to judge, I'll happily tell them where to go. Does not bother me. But you get those points of, oh, that's my kid. Oh, what do I do? What do I do?
No, it's horrible.
Sometimes you can't do anything, and it's having that confidence and that understanding and that okayness about it to go, nothing I can do right now.
So what do you want to explain, like maybe what like the challenging behaviour? Because I don't think people realise, they think it's like just punching, but it's a lot more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, so challenging behaviour are any actions, physical, verbal, emotional, any form of action that can cause harm or distress to either themselves or to you or to anybody around you. Okay, so it's an action that causes harm or distress, whether that's self-harm, harm towards you, harm towards others, whatever it may be. And it's usually, to be fair, because there's a need that hasn't been met. Now, I'm not saying because you're a bad parent and you haven't met their need. My 4-year-old is currently non-verbal. I might not always know what need he has, and we've tried everything and we still don't understand, and then he has what we affectionately call a shit fit. So it is usually because the need's not being met. Very rarely have we found in professionally that a child has become violent and aggressive and shouting and screaming towards either themselves or those around them just because they feel like it. Yeah. I'm not saying it never happens, but generally it's because something has happened, and they may not be able to tell you verbally, they may not be able to show you physically, it may just be that something's triggered them from their past. You know, we looked after children, so okay, they're not with their parents, and so, you know, we don't necessarily know all of their trauma and their history, but maybe something's happened that we haven't even realised and it's triggered them, so they've had a behaviour. It's, I suppose, easier in that sense for parents because they will understand if there's been any traumas. They will know if there's been any traumas. So to kind of avoid those situations is a bit easier than from a professional setting. But generally speaking, it's because something has happened, a need has been unmet, whether that's a cuddle or, you know, they've seen something or they felt something or they've heard something. But it really does scale from someone shouting to somebody physically hitting you. There's a massive scale in that. Any of that can be classed as challenging behaviour.
Yeah, we've supported children, and sometimes just needing to go to the toilet, if somebody doesn't have their communication aids with them and they need to go to the toilet and their tummy starts hurting, they would get really aggressive regardless of where they were. And it took, you know, you having that relationship with that young person that you would be able to say, right, it's this, or, you know, and just being able to understand what they're communicating, even though it's not done in an acceptable, you know, in a socially acceptable way.
In what they say is a normal way, completely. Yeah. And as I say, as a parent myself, my son may ask for stuff or point to stuff or sign for stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying to me. And I know you're about to now throw yourself on the floor and start smacking your head on the floor. Yeah. That technically is a challenging behaviour, because he's trying to self-harm. He doesn't bother me when he does this, but I know that it winds my husband up. When we finally go, enough, you know, when you hit that breaking point, which we all do, he will then shout back at you. Really winds my husband up. That could be classed as challenging behaviour.
Yeah, yeah.
He's shouting at you. But why is he? It always comes back to the why. And if you can work out the why, whether it's right in that very second or 10 hours later, if you can work out that why, that gives you the tool for the next time that happens. And I think all parents and professionals need to realise that you can have a toolbox with 100 tools in it. And you use those tools as you're going. And we'll go into it in a bit further depth later. But there's a scale that I'll explain, where when we're talking about between active, proactive and reactive, and those children can go up and down on that scale, and you're picking up tools that you've learned from what the nursery's learned and taught you and found out, what the professionals are telling you to do, what you as a parent knows how to do, and you're picking up those tools at that particular point. And if it doesn't work, you then find another tool. And it may be that tool isn't available right there and then because something new's happened. But then you learn and you keep that tool in your toolbox. And then the next time you try that and it may work and brilliant, or, you know, they may not have had enough sleep and so it doesn't work that time, but then you pick another tool. But I think parents need to realise that they're not bad parents and that they do have these tools and they do have that knowledge and understanding. But a lot of time it's panic, you know, because it's in public space, in a supermarket or wherever, that the kids decided to throw themselves to the floor, or it's a wedding or a christening. And, you know, it's always that kid that, you know, starts screaming and shouting, and you get the parents all red in the face and sort of marching their kid out. They have these tools, and it's building that confidence for them to be able to either go to the old little Karen in the supermarket, do one lady, I'm dealing with it, or to know how to help them right there and then. My son, for example, I know if I get him in a bear hug, and obviously you have to be careful of chests and breathing and stuff, parents, before you all start squeezing your children to death. Get him in a bear hug and hold him and rock him is usually enough to bring him down, but it doesn't always work.
No.
So what I got. So that scope of challenging behaviour is, say, there is verbal, so, you know, shouting, screaming, arguing, name calling, whatever it may be. And then you've got like your non-verbal challenging behaviour. So this, a lot for my son, destructiveness, starts throwing things, pulling things apart, ripping things, whatever it may be. He also likes to eat inedible objects. So you're like, no, don't do that. Swinging the arms around, pacing. I find a lot of children, non-verbal children, professionally I've seen pace.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that behaviour, not pacing, but the non-verbal side, you know, can affect the person's life skills from social communication, school focus, functioning in society, which is what apparently we should all be forcing our children to do, is to be a upstanding member of society. If they can't verbalise, it's really difficult. And then obviously you've got your physical behaviour. So that's your hitting, whether it's themselves or other people, hair pulling, kicking, biting. Biting's a big one.
Biting, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and then I suppose it's, why are you seeing this behaviour? So we talked about having their needs unmet, but, you know, what sort of need could it be? So
I think it's effectiveness as well. I remember when we were working in a school, we'd done some training. I'll never forget it. They was talking about why challenging behaviour, because it's effective, and why it's so effective, because when the kids that we was working with that were non-verbal and stuff like that would literally lash out and like would sit there and hit you in the face. That's the quickest way for them to get you to pay attention to them, and you need to replace that by something. Yeah, whether it is, but you need to get in there to replace a need. No, replace what they think is effective with something longer, and it's always going to be quicker to punch someone in the face and get them to come over to you. So once they've learned that, it's very hard to undo that behaviour, because always it'll be them trying to be calm and trying to be, you know, try and come challenge, come show us what you want. When I know if I just hit you, you're going to pay attention to me no matter what you're doing.
Well, it's even like, you were just using the example about a supermarket. If somebody who, you know, I can think of a few young people I've worked with, and they don't want to be in the supermarket, the quickest thing to do is pick something up and smash it, because then they're taken straight out. And you learn, it's learnt behaviour. You know, we all have learnt behaviour. I think, you know, anyone that's got habits or addictions or anything, it's because we learn and we reinforce it. So you learn very quickly. Yeah.
That problem, we adults that aren't neurodivergent, is that the right way around? Yeah, that aren't neurodivergent, can understand what we learnt from our parents may not be the right thing to do now. You know, smacking kids with wooden spoons and things like that. Those that are neurodivergent can't process the same way that we can, can't necessarily risk assess the same way that we can, can't necessarily have informed choice the same way as we can. We obviously try to give them informed choice, but it's how well they process that. So if they think that smacking somebody with a wooden spoon is the way to punish somebody for doing something wrong to them, the chances are they're going to pick up a wooden spoon and go around and smack people with it. So it's trying to make sure that the learned behaviour, the behaviour we're showing our children, and as well as professionals as well, what we're showing the children is the right way of them getting their needs met. So Nate's right. Punching you in the face is going to get your attention. To me, that means their need is they need attention. So how else do we show that? And you're right, it is really long-winded to go and get your book, show me what you want to do. But it's about building up that relationship with that child in a professional setting. If they're your own child, generally speaking, you have that that knowledge already of when they want to be left alone and when they need you. So it's, I think, because we're talking about both professional and parents, it's ensuring that we separate that. You know, what a professional needs to understand with a child and what the parents need to understand. The parents are more likely to understand subtle clues and subtle facial expressions and subtle twitches and subtle movements because we're with them all the time, they're our child. Whereas a professional would hopefully learn, they just punched me in the face, but 2 minutes before that, they were pulling on their ear, or they were twiddling with their hands, or they were, you know, jumping up and down, or whatever it was. Right, next time I'll look out for that, and I can get there before the punching in the face happens, so I know that they are trying to communicate something with me.
That's it.
So
when is the PBS element coming to it? Why is PBS such a good way of managing?
So a PBS, to me, PBS is a very professional thing. But actually, I have realised, even myself, that I almost do a PBS with people when I either introduce my son or if they have my son for a length of time, even with his own grandparents. Although it may be difficult to kind of recognise and understand triggers, etc., challenging behaviour, if it's done right, challenging behaviour can be prevented when we use proactive PBS solutions. A PBS plan to me, and it doesn't necessarily have to be set up like this, but a PBS plan to me is you have a section about the person. Yeah. So if I was writing about my son, I would say, you know, Finley is a really happy, bubbly child, really enjoys playing with, I'm going to say the word out loud now, so watch it all go wrong. Really enjoys playing with balloons, enjoys dog. I'm just waiting because I can know you can hear me. Enjoys going to the park, enjoys, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So you kind of give a background of the child. The next bit under is more of the history. So from a professional setting, a professional would be writing any past traumas that they know that child has had. So, for example, I now know that we cannot drill anywhere near our son. Now, bear in mind, this kid is not bothered by loud noises. A drill really set him off the other day. So to me, that would go in the past histories. So I'm hoping a school would never be drilling with the children around. But it would give them an idea that, you know, lawnmowers, strimmers, drills, that sort of thing, hand dryers, he hates them. So when you take him to the toilet, don't touch the hand dryer because you're going to put him in a state of shock. He then starts ticking. That's when he starts crying and banging his head and everything else. So you've got your section on past histories and past traumas. You should then always have a section on what is a good day. So a good day for my son is a room full of balloons, a couple of dogs thrown in there, all the food that he could ever possibly want, lots of singing and dancing. To me, that's a good day for my son. He starts school in September. When we met his teacher, the first thing his teacher said to me is, what's a good day look like for Finley?
That's good.
Well, I know that they are following some form of PBS plan. And then we start talking about, sorry, the dogs are barking now. Fate. So I know that they start, what was I saying? Dogs distracted me.
Just having a good day. So having a good day.
So you're right, what a good day is. Now, professional wise, a professional can look at that and go, right, if I really want to score some brownie points here, this is what I need to be doing. And it helps start that relationship. And you want your child to have a relationship with these people, whether it's schooling, counsellors, whatever it may be. After that, you then start going into your active, your proactive and your reactive approaches, which is what I mentioned earlier. So your active approaches, so you will talk about what that child is like when they are calm and settled, what the professional needs to be doing at that point. So, for example, the active point is, you know, he's sitting down, he's colouring, he's drawing, he's joining in. Staff just need to ensure, teachers just need to ensure, counsellors, whoever it may be, just need to ensure that, you know, that they've got other activities to hand, because when he gets bored, he needs to be able to move on to something else. And that's your active thing. You're not really doing anything. You're just in your head knowing that when that child is then bored of that activity, and I'm using my son as an example, you're already lined up to go on to the next one. Yeah, so you keep him calm and happy and settled. Then you get into your proactive stages. So this is where, you know, Finley, he's a bit tired today, a bit grumpy today. What are we going to do to keep him still at that kind of happy stage? So we're going to pull out the balloons and bubbles, and we're going to get the service dog. His new school has a service dog. I am so excited about this, and it's a Labrador as well, which he's used to. We're going to bring out the service dog. We're going to, get the paddling pool out because it's hot weather. We're going to plan an outside activity to help keep him in that. I may be acting a bit calm, but it could turn at any minute. But they're proactively putting things in place to help me stay at that level. Then you get to the reactive stages. So this is usually when crisis hits. Now, it may be a crisis that lasts a minute. It may be a crisis that lasts 3 weeks. It depends what children you are working with. Do they have quite serious mental health problems? We've had people in crisis for 6 months. But this instant, it's just there is a crisis happening. So at this point, my son has completely lost it. He is smacking his head against the floor. He's kicking chairs. Not that he does that, but he's kicking chairs and he's screaming at you. And it's all just going wrong. What do you do at that point? Where in that toolbox that I was talking about in a minute ago, what tools are you bringing out to get that child back to that nice, active, calm level? And that could be anything. And again, it depends on the age of the child, and it depends on whether when a professional's doing a PBS, whether there's a DOLS in place and things like that, and there's actually court orders to say that you're able to restrain. So restraint comes in at that kind of level. But obviously, I want it very well noted that restraint is always a last resort. But it could be that the restraint is put in, whether it's a lower level hold or a higher level hold, or it could just be that you pull out the magic balloons and everything's fine again.
I'm singing and dancing and blowing bubbles. As you're saying this, I'm thinking, oh my God, like the first, just to try and distract.
I'm not saying my son is simple, so I don't want anybody to come for me. If you pull out or a pack of bubbles, he could be in the world's biggest shit fit, and like that, he's fine again. But I understand that not all children are like that, and not all professionals have those things to hand. We went to a consultant appointment the other day, and the one thing he wanted, they didn't have in there, and so he threw himself on the floor, and he was screaming, and he was crying, and the only thing I had to hand was my phone. YouTube went on, I found one of his favourite songs, and he stopped like that, and he was concentrating. May not happen to everybody, but that's where your toolbox comes in. But that's also where the rest of that information really comes to hand, because you've read about what the traumas are, you've read what a good day looks like, you've read what an active approach is, and you kind of pull all those resources together, and hopefully, eventually, whether it's in a minute or 6 hours, that child has managed to reach that level of active calmness, and you all just carry on with your day. The only other thing I say with professionals is always, they should always then debrief afterwards. So they should, whether it's a staff meeting or a meeting between the parent and the professional or whatever it may be, having that meeting afterwards and debriefing, because that's where you find out about your lessons learned. Why was your son like that at that point? Well, do you know what? This happened, and this happened. So maybe next time, if we know we're getting to that point, that's about to happen, we remove him from the situation, or, we distract him with song and dance and bubbles or whatever it may be. That may help. And you start to build a case for lessons learned. And that's where your trends and analysis and all of that come in, which is all the really professional, boring stuff. But for parents, when I when I gave my son to my mum for the weekend, myself and my husband went on our honeymoon. We went away for the weekend. My mum had him. I found when I was giving over all of the information, now my mum sees him every week, usually twice a week, but has never really had him overnight and for sort of 48 hours straight. So when I was handing over all of the information on what do you do if this happens and this what you do if that happens, I was practically giving over a PBS. Now that's not professional to professional or parent to professional, that's parent to family member, but it was a PBS I gave over. If he gets like this, do this. If this happens, do that. When he gets here, this is what you've got to do. So you give over a PBS.
And that just shows you, isn't it? Having that, when it comes to parents, that's why it'd be important, because that's your confidence, isn't it? Going back to something you already know that works, but working yourself. And I think it's like the whole goal of PBS is to try and stop getting to the active, isn't it? It's just to remain on proactive as much as you can.
No, it's stop reactive.
Active, isn't it? Reactive. Next one. Yeah. Second one. Yeah.
You want them at the active, don't let them get to reactive.
Yeah, it's something I would say as well, which you touched on at the beginning. I think sometimes we feel judged. So just, when you were saying, if your son's banging his head and then I'm thinking, oh my God, I would be blowing bubbles, or you give them an iPad, or there's sometimes that judgment, or you feel the judgment. Why are they giving him that? Or why are they doing that It looks like you're rewarding, and you're not. Yeah, you're not rewarding. What you're doing is stopping your child from hurting
You've
themselves.
got risk assessed there, haven't you?
Absolutely. But I know that parents can feel, when we're in a workplace, it's different, because I don't care if I'm being judged, because I'm following plans and, strategies that we know that work. But sometimes as a parent, you can, if you're in a restaurant and then all of a sudden something's happening and you give them an iPad because you know that it's their favourite song, and all it takes is for someone to look at you a bit funny, and you're just like, oh, and you feel bad, don't you? As a parent, you feel like, oh, am I giving in, or am I?
In that situation, I'm very much do one, turn around, look the other way, show's over. But as part of that kind of active approach, if we go out for dinner, we tend to go to the same place we always go to. It is our local. We've been going there 15 odd years. They've done our wedding, our christenings, our, everything, birthdays. One, they know Finley anyway, so that's great. But I know that he is going to want to get up and go around and touch everybody's dogs, because it's a dog-friendly place and he loves dogs. So if he sees a dog, he's off that chair and he's gone. So the first thing we do is we ask when we book a table to book us in a certain spot. And as soon as we sit down, I give him his iPad or his tablet. So he's already distracted and happy and settled. Now he's got his communication book next to us. We're still talking to him. We're still involving him in what's going on. But we've already set that scene up. And I don't think that parents should feel that they're not able to do that, to be able to sit down and have a nice meal. They deserve to be able to go out and have a nice meal as well. And a lot of it is about planning. And I understand with our neurodivergent children, a lot of planning goes into the simplest of excursions, the simplest of tasks, and it can make our head hurt. And there's so much going on. And what about if we forget something? But we've all been there. We've all done it. The amount of times I've forgotten his tablet when we've gone out, and I'm like, really, have I done that? And I know he's going to need it. But it is about that planning, and it is about having that in place. And I think it's about getting into a routine. And if you feel like you have got the tools to help your child in that reactive situation, then the proactive stage really isn't anything to worry about. And it is very much about being able to put things in place for them. But you're right, Sharon, the amount of times I haven't been prepared for my son to do something, it's happened, and I've given him a tablet and I get whispers, usually from little old Karens, oh, she's rewarded for his behaviour.
Exactly.
I just turn around and go, mind your own business, love. You ain't got a clue.
And do you know what? Sometimes maybe people aren't judging, but because we're in that state of crisis ourselves.
What? But it's that panic that we're already feeling, and if we can give you the tools to help with that panic, then you're more likely to be like, just turn around, go and watch it. I literally had it in the swimming pool. I can't remember when it was. I think it was last year. So I'd taken Finley to Faversham swimming pool, and I'm in the little baby pool, and there's quite a few kids. And those really long floating device things that, like, the noodles, that's it. Finley had seen a child with one, and I went up to lifeguard and said, oh, have you got any spare ones so we can play with it, please? And he was like, yeah, no problem. So threw him a noodle. So he's having a great time in the pool, and he's sort of trying to tell me the colour, and he's sort of bashing the water and smacking me around the head with it, and he was having a great time. And this dad came over with two children, and the daughter had one, but the son didn't. The dad just turned around to the son and went, well, go and play with his. And I'm like, no. Well, he can share, can't he? I said, he won't understand. He'll think you're taking it off of him. He won't understand that he's got to, they're trying to share and play together. He'll just think you're off of him and you're going to ruin his day. Well, why don't you just tell him to share? Why are you not teaching your son to share? I'm like, I do teach my son to share, and very much if I see him take something off of another child, I'm also the parent to go, don't think so, give it back now. But he's autistic, he doesn't understand. And I genuinely got, one of you, is it? Everybody's bloody autistic now. It's just for the benefits, is it? Now, I'm in a public place with children around me, so I had to very much calm my own temper. And I just went, look, he won't understand. Go and ask the lifeguard for one. Or even better, his sister has one. Get him to play with his own sister. Picked Finley up and went the other side of the pool. But I genuinely was like, are you shitting me right now? Are you over a pool noodle?
Honestly.
I'm one of them.
I'm in a bit of a weird situation at the moment with my daughter, because she's a dick. What you're saying is great, but when they're at that level, but when they're not at that level and they have got the autism, I find myself taking her away and giving in, not because it's a safer option, but for everybody else's sake. So if you're in a group supermarket or in a restaurant and she's screaming, I struggle because I know what not to do. Take her out because I know that's what she wants to do. But then if I leave it in there, I start looking around at everyone else eating a meal, and then you can see that minute by minute you're just thinking they're just getting pissed off, and then I end up just giving her that tablet or giving her whatever she wants because it's a horrible. I'm in a really horrible position with that at the moment.
I'm trained in this for the children's side for me to give this training, and I still would rather give in and give him his 50th of the day just to get him to than to have him screaming. Although we are getting better at that now. I will say no more and I'll just let him cry. But what he's now learned is that he goes to daddy and has a cuddle when I say no, and he comes to me and has a cuddle when daddy says no. But us giving him the cuddle isn't a reward for him having that shit fit. Us giving him the cuddle is because that need right at that moment is to have that comfort. And he isn't understanding that because we're saying no, we're not saying no forever. We're just saying no because we're just about to put you to bed, or we're just about to go out, or we're just about to do something. And trust me, you're not going to want that then, because you're going to want to do whatever it is we're about to do. So that need that needs to be met is a cuddle. So he gets one. I'm not rewarding him for screaming back at me or Mark. I'm giving him a cuddle because that's his need. But yes, you're right. We all give in. And as you say, you're trained in this. I'm trained in this. We've used it professionally. But we do all still give in. And do you know what? That's okay.
Yeah, we've got to get through our day.
It's not okay. It's not getting away with it. I'm sick of it. It's not okay. She's wearing me down. I swear to God, she's getting me in good moments. I'm waiting to go to cinema this weekend. I'm waiting for it. I swear to God, I'll lose my shit. Do you know what as well? I know, because I know her as well. You know your kids, don't you? You know which one's the stress and which one's the prevention, isn't it? You know, like when they're screaming and then you say something to them and they stop crying to listen to what you're saying and then carry on afterwards. Like, you're just taking a minute now to see whether I'm going to say, yes, you can have it or not. Like, you're not even distressed. But like, it's really hard. I think even just for that balance in your own kid is always going, professionally, you kind of don't see that balance, do you? So you kind of just treat it as it is. But as a parent, it's hard because even with the worst and the most severe autism, they always are going to be kids and they're always going to learn effective effective challenging behaviour.
Yeah.
So
This is the
it's
problem.
learning, isn't it?
Kids are kids. So my son, as I say, is about 2 years behind. He's just about to hit primary school, but mentally he's just hit the terrible twos. The problem is we're having the terrible twos in a 5-year-old size boy.
Yeah.
So although he doesn't hit out and he doesn't kick out, and he pretty much just screams in your face back at you if you've shouted first, he hurts himself. And as he gets bigger, he hurts himself harder. So, but kids are going to be kids, Nate, and it doesn't matter whether they are autistic or not, they are still going to be kids. And I think a lot of it does come down to, are they just being a kid? Are they just being a general little shit of a kid? Because that happens. Or are they having a need that we're not meeting? And that very much is the $1 million question that we as professionals wish we could answer for every parent out there, including us as our own parents. We would love to be able to answer that.
I don't think they're taking piss all the time.
She quite possibly is, but also what I would be saying to you, if you came to me as a parent, me in a professional capacity would say to you, you need to be practicing that at home, in closed doors, in the four walls, where other people aren't going to be looking at you, other people aren't going to be judging you, other people aren't going to be saying anything that's going to make you panic and make you worse, that you can hear. You're practicing those tools and that solution inside your house.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sticking to it, but I also don't think she's just autistic, Nate. I think she's also maybe a bit ADHD, and I think the two are probably at one with each other. But to me, if a parent came to me, that would be the advice I'd give, is that you practice that no, or not happening right now, or I can't do that, but let's do this. Whatever it may be, I would be practicing that in your daily interactions with your child within your own home, because the more they hear it, the more they're going to get used to it, and technically less the reaction should be. Not all the time. That's how.
Or they can evolve and then learn that it's not going to work at home and just do it every time they're out.
Well, no, because once you're out, if you've got that confidence, it becomes an automatic thing.
You won't care. You won't care happening.
So when you are so used to going happening, love, you'll suddenly do that out in public without even realising it when you're out and about. And she's going to be like, oh, because you're sticking to your guns. All right. give it a go.
I've got
Come back to me, Nate, in 6 months' time.
No, this is why like normal tricks, and I always say this, that normal parenting does not work on anyone who's because you do stuff like, oh, I'm just going to walk away, and they just front it and they'll just go away, and then you're looking for them. Like I've done it in Chessington like a dick, and Calvin fronted me and went missing. Like I looked behind, it's gone, and I went back and he's moved, and I was like, oh no, like I was like, oh god, and he was hiding from me then. He was hiding behind in the bushes. I was thinking, oh my god. But like even little things, isn't it? Discipline, anything, you have to be very careful, and that's why stuff like this is very effective, because it's not about being a normal parent and getting behaviour. It's about knowing your kid and knowing why they're doing that, and knowing it's having that extra understanding, isn't it? And just being like, oh no, you shouldn't do that.
And having the tools, like you said, Carly, having those tools in your toolbox that you know work, and like you said, they might not work all the time, but they, they're there that you can pull out.
You practice, and the more that you do stuff, and the more that, as they get older, the challenge behaviour may become a different type of challenging behaviour. So you pick up different tools there. The more that you use those tools, the more tools that will come in, but also understanding that I know several parents that have 1, 2, maybe 3 children that are autistic, and what works for one child may not work with the other child who's also autistic. I understand that sounds like real hard work, and I take my hats off to them.
3 support plans. That's right. It's just 3 different support plans. I was like, oh god.
Absolutely. But you do pick up tools without realising it.
You become experts really quick, don't you? Doing it daily, you become experts in your own field very, very fast. And that's why I said, even like with our app, that as much as we try to say that we're professionals, there's still parents out there would be teaching me stuff daily. Yeah. They're in the situation. There's examples of people that have got the non-verbal ones in our app, isn't it? That are going through stuff that we wouldn't have come across it, but even at work. But like even coming from a parent's point of view is completely different to professionals. You learn, everyone's got the experience, isn't it? It's just getting everyone to get it out there. So everyone's capable of doing it. And they are doing a lot of this stuff, but not without realising it.
It's not one size fits all, is it? It's not you do one thing and that will work for everybody.
And it doesn't fix. I think
it doesn't.
It'll just develop, so it'll change. The behaviour will change into something else. You're never going to fix it all, because then they wouldn't have the condition. Like that's ridiculous to think that you're going to get them to be a good child.
Non-verbal to me is non-verbal. Whether you're non-verbal at 2 or you're non-verbal at 22, at the end of the day, you are non-verbal, and so they themselves are always going to have challenges.
Yeah.
And so the behaviour is still going to be there, whatever that behaviour is for that person. Whether it's hitting out and kicking out because they can't physically tell you to go away or whatever it may be. But knowing your child obviously makes that a lot easier, because as I said before, you've got those subtle clues, you've got those subtle mood changes and noises and things like that. But as professionals, we have to really get to know that child. And so when you're looking at the crisis scale, yes, you've got your PBS plan, and you should absolutely know that like the back of your hand, because you can't just go, can you stop hitting me for a minute while I just go and read something? You should know that. Yeah. Hold on, I've got a post-it note file here. Let me just through it until I get to yours. It's also about understanding that we do it holistically. So we're not just looking at that child as an autistic child. We're looking at that child who, may not sleep very well, may have other health conditions, may have allergies. They may not do very well in the heat. They may not do very well in the cold. We're looking at them as a whole person, but also understanding.
That's really important, is hitting on allergies and things like that, because half of, neurotypical people, when you have an allergy, you don't always realise it is hay fever, or that's why you're feeling grumpy. For somebody that can't communicate that they're in pain, what I've always found, there's a lot of I wonder if, because you don't know the answer. You don't know whether someone's got a toothache if they can't tell you. You don't know. So there's a lot of...
Professional wise, even parents, I know that I do it as a parent, but as a professional, those what ifs should be going through your head. Right, have we tried this? Okay, are they too hot? Do we take their top off? Do we need to give them a cold pack? Do we need to give them a cold drink? Have they eaten? If they're anything like me and I'm hungry, people are going to die. So, I mean, literally, my bosses have threatened to throw just chocolate, literally open the door, throw chocolate, shut the door again. So, if me as a neurotypical person can say, I am starving, get out of my way, if they can't do that, or, and this really annoys me, and I hear it from professionals as well as other people, you're fine, get on with it. Are they fine? I'm sorry, who is the judge of whether they're fine? They're telling you they're hungry.
Yeah.
Then they're telling you they're hungry, or non-verbally they're pointing at food or signing food or whatever it may be. just because it's not convenient for you, if you give them
Absolutely.
that apple or you give them that cookie or you give them whatever it may be, you might find that in 5 minutes' time they're happy, settled back doing what they're doing, or you'll find in 5 minutes' time they're tearing apart the classroom, throwing chairs, hitting people, hitting themselves. But they told you.
Doesn't mean I take what I said, though.
Just because you are an adult does not mean you get to dictate to children how they feel.
No. Or what they're thinking, you know.
What
you
they're
can't
thinking,
project.
deny them their need. Even in secondary school, we still had teachers that wouldn't allow us to go to the toilet because we had lunch an hour ago. I'm sorry.
I think that's still going on
need a
now.
wee.
Yeah.
You can't tell me I can't go to the toilet, that I don't need a wee because lunch was an hour ago. How dare you tell me that? Can you imagine telling that to somebody that's nonverbal? Or somebody with autism and ADHD who can't process? Of course they're then going to hit you. And do you know what? You bloody deserve it.
It's really, it doesn't work. Having my oldest with me, I'm going through this process now about, I'll be careful I'm saying this, because I don't want to say that my mum done anything wrong, because she did. But you know that, like, the stuff I was saying, like, I said so, and because I want to, and that just said normal, you should behave because I'm saying so, doesn't work with my oldest at all. You have to explain yourself. And then some people don't, even doing that, it's like, why are you explaining yourself to a child? Why is do you know what I mean? But you have to, with the understanding, then he knows why the behaviour works, and you have to maybe give into it. And it's even changing the way you deliver and having to talk to him. Even I talk to him like so much more maturely when it comes to behaviour than I would anything else. And he's like advanced in that element because he's got the understanding of what he's always thinking about it. But like, you have to really be careful of every single thing that you're like.
But even with normal children, do you know how many times I've turned around to my daughter and gone, because I've said so, and then afterwards gone, what a shitty parent. Why did I just say that?
I know.
And I just get why, but why? And then it gets
Whereas my daughter isn't neurodivergent. Saying to her, because I said so, isn't going to cause this major thing. It's going to annoy her.
It's so great. I thought number one too. I love it.
I just said that to her. But with Finley, we've realised that although we still sometimes slip up and actually use the word no, he doesn't like the word no. So we can still tell him no, but use different words. And so the reaction we get from him is less.
What can you teach me? Because I can use that, Sharon. It's really, you don't like the word no either. It'd be good if I could deliver stuff.
For example, we might say, we don't have that one, but we do have this. You know, so we're basically still saying no to that one.
Yeah.
We're offering a different option, especially if we're saying no not because they're being naughty. You know, we're saying no because we physically don't have something available. We try to phrase it in a different way because it's not his fault that I don't have that available. Not that it's necessarily my fault, but saying no, knowing that triggers him.
Yeah,
why would I say that? Don't get me wrong. We're tired, or we're stressed, or loads of stuff's going on. We might still use the word no, and guess what? We pay for it afterwards. He's at times let go of my hand and gone to do a runner, and I've gone no. Because I think it's maybe the tone of my voice. He just sort of stops and then looks at me like, what have I done? And then cries. But I think that's because I scared him, not because I've used the word no. You know, there are different situations, but we know, generally speaking, the word no is a trigger. So what other way can we say no without it being? There's that. So, yeah. And I think with the crisis scale as well, that all parents and professionals need to remember that, you know, you kind of want them down here. And as they're starting to build up on that crisis scale, that's when you start bringing your proactive things and your secondary strategies, and you hope they go back down. But also at crisis, when they're coming back down the other end, back down to that nice, calm, relaxed individual, that bit between crisis and that calm bit can also be a major problem for them because they're worried if you're angry with them, upset them, you know, are you going to go and tell my mum now? Because, you know, you're the professional at the school, am I going to get into more trouble? Or they genuinely are feeling regret. I've hurt that person. I didn't mean to hurt that person, you know, and so they're in that point where the slightest thing can bring them back up to crisis point. And that's when the professionals and parents need to really use those tools to make sure they're fully down at that calm stage before trying to maybe talk to them about it. Because if you try to talk to them too soon, you could set them back up onto crisis. Yeah. And always with professionals, you need to make sure that relationship's still intact. You know, at the end of the school day, you're saying to them, look, you know, we didn't have a very good day today, but that's fine. And we're going to see you tomorrow and we've got this, and this plan. And that child knows it's okay. That person's still talking to me. That person still cares about me. You know, I'm still going to get that love and nurturing and everything else that I need.
I think that's important as well, because I've said to Marge, really worry about if you thought you've done something wrong, you'll go back and think about it, and it would cause more anxiety again if he doesn't get that. But that's an important thing even to think about, even teachers going back and just saying that one thing or just saying that comment, like, you know, it's okay at the end, we'll probably go a massive long way, instead of then coming in the next day thinking, oh, they're going to be mad at me because I've done this yesterday. I'm going to come and, like, Joe, it resets the clock, doesn't it? Kind of.
Exactly. And that reset of clock, especially between professionals and children, is immense. Obviously, as parents, generally speaking, children know that their parents love them. Generally speaking, you know, generally speaking, children know that they can scream and shout at their parents and 10 minutes later they can come over and get a cuddle. But with professionals, that relationship isn't there because they're not a parent, and they need to feel that it's okay to come back to school the next day. It's okay to go back to that counselling session. It's okay that even with friends, you know, if your children's got friends, teaching them as well. You know, my child might shout at you at some point. I'm really sorry. It's usually because of this, this or this. So if he ever shouts at you, come and talk to me, whatever it is that you've got to do, and I'll happily sit down and talk to you about it, your parents about it, etc. But that friend then going, it's all right, mate, that happened 5 hours ago. We're over it. Let's move on. Especially as they're older and they're, you know, really making their own friends and going out with their friends and stuff like that. As they get older, children, young adults, having that sort of friendship around you as well, and then letting that person know that trust and that relationship is still there is really, really important.
Yeah. And it's so isolating, even if you don't bring your friends into it, because I think people just do it out of, again, fear, especially if they're physically violent and they don't know what's going to happen, and they bring them to their house, they don't know if they're going to smash anything, and end up just not doing it. It's better. That's what I've been trying to preach on my channel at the moment, trying to look out for each other. I think even if you know someone that's got a kid with autism or ADHD, to check in, because I don't think well, I would be willing in certain situations to put myself forward to go, oh, should we go here? Because you're not going to, because in that situation, you know, that might happen, or invite yourself around to their house, or so it is. Yeah.
I think with challenging behaviour, I mean, there's an endless list of what could help. I think there's an endless list of what if this happens, what if that happens kind of scenarios. But generally speaking, those tools in your toolbox, what helps are going to be, you know, getting them to participate in their interests, incentives, diversion and redirection and distraction are the biggest words that you could use in a PBS plan, in your own head, when you're trying to get a child to stop a certain behaviour. Redirection and distraction, because anybody can get distracted by a shiny object. And with children, it usually means, oh, I've forgotten what I was just about to have a problem with, or what I was having a problem with, because look, my favourite book's out on the table, or my favourite TV program's just been put on. So redirection, distraction are big, big tools that you can use. Obviously, knowing why they're having the behaviours, whether you're parents or professionals, knowing why that behaviour is happening, that can also help with your anxiety around how you're feeling about it, because you know they're having that behaviour because they're just struggling today, not because you're a bad person, bad parent or bad teacher or whatever it may be. Calming tones. You shouting back at them when they're shouting at you, you getting defensive when they're getting defensive is just gonna blow. So you saying calm, approachable, professional, if you're in a professional setting, is really, really important. It may be as simple as removing them from the situation, and I don't mean holding and restraining them. In Team Teach, we teach breakaway techniques and pull away techniques. So yes, it is hands-on, but it's not hands-on in a restraint. It's just kind of like, come on, mate, we're going to go this way. And we teach how we can just remove them from that situation where they feel safe for being removed, but it could potentially prevent any more crisis hitting. Obviously, anticipating certain situations, behaviours. So I know now, hand dryers, lawnmowers, drilling, absolutely is not going to do well with Finley. So if I know we've got to drill in the house, we may be having some building work done soon, maybe that I have to remove him from the house, you know, that we're going to go to the park for an hour or whatever it may be, because I know that's going to cause a problem. Remaining calm. I know it's so much easier said than done, especially as you said earlier, like when you're in a public situation, but you remaining calm helps your hormones and your anxiety levels remain on a level balance, and it allows you to then find that tool in that toolbox and find the tool this side and put them into that situation. If you panic, they'll panic more. So
you go through the same curve with them, didn't you? You'll go through the exact same curve with them, follow them behind them.
Who is that going to help?
Yeah.
Positive touch, that is always amazing, even as professionals. And when I say positive touch, anything dodgy, I mean literally touch on the shoulder, handshake, cuddle. My son loves his back scratched or his head scratched. I've got service users that like having a hand massage or a foot massage. They're all positive touches, especially after a crisis as a professional when you're trying to let them know that that relationship is still there. That positive touch could mean the world to that kid. The fact that they have just spent an hour and a half screaming at you and scratching you and pulling your hair and trying to strangle you. At the end of that, everybody's calm and you're giving them a hand massage or you've shook their hand or you've patted them on the back or you've given them a bit of a squeeze. Even words won't be as good as that feeling they will get from having that positive touch. And just remembering as a parent that you are not a bad parent just because your child has challenging behaviours, because you're not.
In fact, I'd say you're a better parent. If a kid could challenge your behaviour, because again, let's be honest, the more challenging, the harder your job as a parent is, the more challenging your child is. Let's just think about it. It's the more challenging, the more mistakes, the more they get themselves in danger, the more that they've got, and that's your job as a parent to fix, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to help them remain safe. So the more that they're just going out of their way to not remain safe, the harder it is for you.
But can I also just say, there is an age-old saying that you take out on those closest to you, even as neurotypical people. If I am having a bad day, the person that's more likely to get it in the neck is my husband, and vice versa, because he's the closest person to me. So if you then take into consideration, what's the matter, Munchie? Black drink? Okay. If you then take into consideration a neurodivergent child whose hormones and brain and everything is still developing and they're having a bad day, that challenging behaviour is more likely to be aimed at their parents or to be aimed at their favourite teacher at school or to be aimed at their best friend, because that's who they feel safe around.
Yeah. I used to have a service user that absolutely battered me. Followed me. But I was like his favourite, but I was safe space, so much so that he'd leave for everyone else, be unsettled, walk around the classroom just to get me. And it was just, that's like the extreme end of it. But it makes
hard as well, because sometimes it's almost like you feel that they feel you should know what it is. And it's like, you don't know. And it's like,
again, non-verbal, didn't know it. Just very, very just reactive to grabs, scratches, bites, if you didn't kind of know what was going through their mind, or kind of as much as you could do by using stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think overall as well with parents, I think this is new. I think this, even talking out loud about parenting children with ADHD and autism, we've only just spoke about it. So it's not like something that parents are meant to have known before. You're not meant to have got this. You're not meant to have known about, you're barely meant to have known about the diagnosis. How are you meant to know? If you haven't got it yourself, you're not looking for that diagnosis. And then the kid gets it, they've got a diagnosis. You've got to learn about what your kid struggles with, and then you've got to know how to parent that kids to have the most effective life. It's just, you're not, and even then you're going to get it wrong. You're going to get it right. You're going to get it wrong, and it's never going to cure it.
I'm saying the most important thing to take away from all of this is that you're not a bad parent. Shit happens. What I did right for my son yesterday may not be what I do right for him today. Okay, it may be that I've had very little sleep last night and I've snapped at him 3 times today. Haven't, because the kid's actually sleeping at the moment. Do you know what I mean? We're all going to make mistakes, and we're going to make mistakes whether we've got neurotypical or neurodivergent children.
Absolutely.
You have to learn, and that's how you learn, is by making a mistake.
Exactly. And learning from those mistakes means that you've got that another tool in your toolbox, because you're like, I've been here, I've done this. That didn't work last time. Let's try this. So having that knowledge is a massive tool.
Yeah, and I think as well, being a parent, it can be really isolating, because we've also got a professional background where you get to share knowledge and get to share ideas. And sometimes as a parent, even as a foster parent, you lose friends, you lose because people don't understand. So you gradually become a bit isolated and you don't get to share ideas. So that's why this is really important, and that there are people out there that you can talk to.
I think, is it Tuesday the 5th? We're starting a challenging behaviour check-in and chat with me. I'll be available. I think it's from, did we say 6 o'clock, 6 till 7?
6 till 7, yeah.
So if anybody wants to ask questions or anybody's got any concerns or they just want to rant at me for an hour, then that's what I'm there to do. And I think that's giving parents that space, that opportunity to rant without being judged. I am the parent that, even though he is autistic, I am that parent that will say, no, my kid's been a little shit. My kid's been a little arsehole today. Don't bother me. You want to judge me for that, that's fine. But no, my kid is being a little shit today. And do you know what? He's not being a little shit because he's autistic. He's just being a little shit.
Yeah, and then that's I think when you really know your child, every parent would know that. But when they're a bit wary, scared, and anxious of their child having these behaviours, they don't get to that point to realise that, and they think everything's down to the condition and the diagnosis, and it's then they're fighting their corner. Saying, look, you can't do this.
You can't tell them off because they're autistic, and you can't give them a smack on the hand because they're autistic, and you can't, give them a consequence because they're autistic, and you can't take their phone away because they're autistic. I mean, unless it's a phone they use because they're non-verbal and they need the app.
You were speaking today.
Unless you live in Wales, I think it's illegal.
No, it's legal still here.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, in Wales, I just said Wales.
It's legal here.
Yeah, but it's not in Wales.
It's not.
She lives in Wales.
Don't do that. Scotland's come up with it.
Laws now.
I'm actually on Glaswegian, I can speak on that.
Exactly. Well, you don't know about the laws, but I'm just saying, so just be mindful. But
I love having conversations with you too.
The check-in and chat, I think, is going to be invaluable because it's just time where you're going to be available for somebody just to say whatever it is they want to say, and that there's going to be someone online or someone else in the community that they can talk to that's going to understand.
Yeah, ask questions.
Had a bad day.
Yeah,
if they're on their knees,
whatever they need. As I say, is whether they want to have a rant, they've got questions, and also it doesn't have to be about challenging behaviour in PBS. If they just want to talk or they just want to ask a random question, then that's fine as well. But
I think that'll be
great. It will be about for the PBS and the challenging behaviour side of it on those Tuesdays from the.
I think that's filled up all the content.
Yes, really good. Thank you so much. And you've got some slides, haven't you? So we can share those as well if we need to share the information with people. And then it's the 5th, isn't it? Tuesday the 5th.
And
put something out which says the times and make sure that people get invites so they're aware of it. And thank you. And for being part of the community, because it's brilliant, because it's what's needed, just so that people don't feel alienated, isolated, alone, because we all do at times, and that's
no, I completely agree. And I think the plan is at some point to do a live session on this as well. So if people want to start getting questions together and things for that, we can answer them live, then I'm looking forward to that as well.
Brilliant. No, it's great. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. I'm going to